Hey, Russell here, Prime Motion Training. In this short video, I want to address the question, have I left it too late to prepare for my entrance exam? So let's have a look at learning any particular skill, whether it's a musical instrument or you're starting a new sport or activity or preparing for a police entrance exam. There's a learning curve. It takes time to understand the fundamentals, to get good at the basics, to then practice them, to get some momentum, and to finally start building your skills and your confidence. There's a little bit of a curve to that. And we don't start anything new and then the next day, we're amazing at it. It takes time. And so if we can control the time, ideally we'd look at preparing ourselves around about 6 weeks out from the exam. Now, if you only had 1 week, well, 2 would be better. If you only had 2, 3 would be better, 4 would be better than 3, and of course 5 would be better than 4. It's a bit like, when should you plant a tree? Well, yesterday would have been a better time, but let's start today if you didn't do it yesterday. So 6 weeks is about the average time that we find our members have got the time to prepare, learn the formulas, understand the strategy, practice all of those things, and get themselves to a good level where they're confident and they can pass the exam on that first attempt. Now, if we don't have that much time, if we've only got 3 weeks or 2 weeks, or even if we only had 1 week before our entrance exam, is it too late to start preparing? Well, no, of course not, because we need to think a little bit long term about this. Again, you need to check the state or territory that you're applying for, but most will allow you to reset any components that you were unsuccessful in the first original attempt. So if there are 8 different components and you manage to pass 4, but you're not able to pass the other 4, you can come back in whatever the time frame is that they allocate. It can be as long as 6 to 8 weeks later. You can come back and reset those 4 components that you failed on the original attempt. Now, that's where we need to think long term. This is usually, for most states, this is the line here. If you can't pass the reset, your application's usually cancelled. Right? So ideally, that's the end of the road there, not necessarily here when you sit your first exam. So if we think a little bit more long term, even if we're not completely successful with the first exam, we've still got some value to get out of this extra week of preparation, particularly keeping in mind this learning curve, so that when we go back and start preparing for the next attempt, our reset, we've already used up this valuable 1 week rather than having to start from scratch from here. Okay, again, it comes back to well, if I had an extra week, but if I just had an extra 2 weeks, well, if I had an extra 3 weeks, it would make all the difference. As you get closer to sitting your original or your initial exam, the amount of time that you've got up your sleeve is just more and more important the closer you get to doing that exam. So have you left it too late? No, not at all. Think a little bit more long term. If I can just get half of the components passed on my initial exam, that would be a good result if I've left it so late. And then I only need to focus on half of the remaining components to get up to speed before I do the reset. So again, the earlier we can start, around about 6 weeks is ideal. As we get further and further towards the exam, that time becomes more and more pressure. So don't delay, get stuck into it as early as you can. And if you think you've left it too late, my advice would be to think about this as the finish line, not so much this. So I hope that helps, and I look forward to chatting to you again in another video soon.